You're standing in a valley in what will one day be called Ethiopia, roughly 300,000 years ago. Your throat can already shape sound. Your brain already has room for grammar, memory, symbols. But there's no word for run, no word for danger. No word has been invented yet for anything. So when the grass moves wrong on the ridge above you, you don't shout a warning. You freeze. You make one low sound in your throat, and 3 other people around you go still at exactly the same moment, without ever agreeing, out loud, on what that sound was supposed to mean. Right now, you send meaning without opening your mouth constantly. A raised eyebrow, a hand on someone's arm, a look across a room that says exactly what it needs to. You just don't call it communication, because you also have roughly 170,000 English words to fall back on the moment the look doesn't land. Take those words away. The look is all you have left. So how did early humans raise children, warn each other of predators, and pass down survival knowledge for hundreds of thousands of years before a single spoken word existed to carry any of it? Start with the hardware. In 1983, archaeologists excavating Blombos Cave on Mount Carmel in Israel uncovered an almost complete Neanderthal skeleton. Buried among the bones was something rarely preserved, a hyoid, the small U-shaped bone that floats in the throat and anchors the muscles used to produce speech. In 1989, anatomist Baruch Ahrensberg and his colleagues published their analysis in the journal Nature. The individual had died around 60,000 years ago. The bone was almost indistinguishable in shape from a modern human hyoid. Not similar, almost identical. That single bone, a few grams of curved calcium, forced a rewrite. Textbooks had described Neanderthals as physically incapable of complex speech, heavy brows, sloped foreheads, throats assumed too primitive for language. A 60,000-year-old hyoid said otherwise. The anatomical hardware for spoken communication may be far older than any direct proof that spoken language existed at all, so the body was ready. But was the code that ran on it? Move from bone to gene. In 2002, geneticists Wolfgang Ennard and Svante Pääbo, working at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology in Leipzig, Germany, published research on a gene called FOXP2. It governs the fine muscle control needed to form words. People born with a damaged copy understand language perfectly, but struggle to coordinate jaw, tongue, and lips well enough to speak clearly. Ennard and Pääbo identified 2 mutations in FOXP2 that appear to have spread through the human population within the last several 100,000 years. Everyone assumes that mutation belongs to Homo sapiens alone, proof that only our branch of the family tree got the upgrade. The truth is messier. In 2007, geneticist Johannes Krauss, also at the Max Planck Institute, sequenced DNA from Neanderthal remains and found the identical modern version of FOXP2. The species popular culture still draws as grunting cavemen may have been carrying the genetic hardware for speech the entire time. Here's where it gets stranger, though. Hardware isn't proof of a message, so look for the message itself. In 2002, archaeologist Christopher Henshelwood, excavating Blombos Cave on South Africa's southern coast, recovered 2 pieces of ochre engraved with deliberate cross-hatched lines, later dated to roughly 77,000 years old. A rock doesn't scratch a repeating geometric pattern into itself. Erosion doesn't produce clean, evenly spaced grooves. Someone carved that pattern on purpose. Someone else was meant to look at it and understand. That's the definition of a symbol, a mark that carries meaning shared between at least 2 minds. Long before there's hard evidence of grammar or full sentences, there's evidence of people agreeing, silently, on what a pattern was supposed to say. Everyone pictures early human communication as grunts and pointing at threats on the horizon. The truth is some of the oldest evidence points somewhere softer entirely, to jewelry. In 2006, archaeologist Marion Van Haren and her colleagues published a study on perforated marine shells recovered from 2 sites, Skul in Israel and Oued Jebana in Algeria, more than 2,000 miles apart. The shells dated to between 100,000 and 135,000 years old, each pierced through the same spot, almost certainly to be strung and worn. 2 populations, separated by an entire continent, independently arrived at the same idea. A shell on a string means something. Status, maybe. Group identity, maybe. Belonging, almost certainly. And this wasn't only a Homo sapiens habit. Everyone assumes that kind of symbolic decoration belonged to modern humans exclusively. The truth is, Neanderthals were doing it too. In 2018, researcher Dirk Hoffman and colleagues dated perforated shells and pigment residue from Cueva de los Aviones in Spain to roughly 115,000 years old, made and worn by Neanderthals, tens of thousands of years before modern humans ever set foot in Europe. So what's actually underneath all of this? Here's the turn. The bone, the gene, the ochre, the shells, all of it points toward the same answer, and it isn't the one most people expect. In 1996, evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar proposed that spoken language didn't evolve primarily to describe the world. It evolved to replace something physical: grooming. Chimpanzees maintain trust by picking through each other's fur for hours, one relationship at a time, which works fine in a group of 50. Once human groups pushed past roughly 150 people, there weren't enough hours in a day to groom everyone you needed to trust. Words became a faster kind of touch, a way to hold 100 relationships instead of 5. Go back to that valley 300,000 years ago. The grass moves. The low sound leaves your throat. 3 people freeze with you, and not one of you needed a shared dictionary to know what it meant, because the meaning was never really in the sound. It was in the fact that someone else was paying close enough attention to react to it at all. That's the thing that got traded away somewhere between the ochre and the group chat. Not silence for words, but attention for information. Words didn't teach humans how to understand each other. Understanding each other is what taught humans to invent words.